It's got to be like formaldehyde, pickle juice, water, white liquor, whatever it is they put in that jar to preserve that shiz. But I would never ingest a pickled pig's foot. The departure of the first Motown review from Motown headquarters in 1962 was hardly promising. The artists, many of them were young, were nervous about leaving their families for the first time. They rubbed their hands together in an effort to keep warm while they waited to board their decrepit-looking buses. They demonstrated what can only be called school spirit. Wells' relationships with her fellow performers on these trips ranged from the sublime to the burlesque. Brenda Holloway called Mary very quiet and reserved. Stevie Wonder would sit next to Wells on the bus while she told him what the skies, the stars, and the clouds looked like. She would tell him, "You probably see things that are much more beautiful than what I can see." Murray later said, "We were always uplifted by the remarkable way Stevie handled himself." On the other hand, when Wonder, then 13, was in a different mood, Wells said, "I'd have to be careful not to be alone with him because his hands were all over me. I frigging knew it." Every book we read that refers to Stevie Wonder calls him a prankster. Precocious. That's what all the women said. This woman finally said that motherfucker was grabby. I know he got too many kids not to be old touchy grabby perversion as a little boy. Too many kids. How old is he now? Like 107? And got like 107 children? That nigga gonna be paying child support forever. Okay, but I knew it. I freaking knew it. I'd have to be careful not to be alone with him because his hands were all over me. Knowing he also liked somewhat shorter Wanda Young of the Marvelettes, Wells would tell him to go over to Wanda. She's more your size. But soon Martha Reeves and the Vandellas started taking motherly care of little Stevie. They hugging his ass while his head is cradled in their breastises. Other problems also surfaced backstage. Shut up, Lou. Other problems also surfaced. Backstage areas at most theaters weren't luxurious. Martha Reeves told Vanity Fair, "We played some places that had horse stables in the back with straw on the floor, places where you had to build a fire in the wastebasket to keep warm." Wells also was troubled by the minuscule spending money Motown provided her. She said she occasionally made dinner on the road out of little jars of pig feet. Oh, that's the most disgusting shit ever. I don't trust no food that has been sitting in the corner store that have been sitting in a jar of, I don't know what that goop is. It's got to be like formaldehyde, pickle juice, water, white liquor, whatever it is they put in that jar to preserve that shiz. But I would never ingest a pickled pig's foot. There is no way, or them eggs that be sitting in them jars. What the hell is that? That liquid goo that's surrounding it. Oh my God. She said she occasionally made dinner on the road out of little jars of pig's feet she bought at 7-Eleven stores. Jesus. I got high blood pressure. Can't eat no shiz like that. And by the time them people got off the road, them ninjas had high blood pressure too. Moreover, Mary and her colleagues had great difficulty finding anywhere decent to stay, especially in the South. Hotels that would accept black customers were hard to find, meaning that the performers would spend only half their nights on any tour at a hotel. They would spend the rest of them sleeping on the bus. Under such conditions, it was natural that some of the artists, including Diana Ross and the Supremes and Wells, fought with each other on the bus. Diana at it again. She with the bullshit. Ross's favorite trick was to put her feet on the back of Wells' bus seat to await Wells' standard response. Bitch, get your feet from close to my face. This led to more words. When the two teenagers calmed down, though, Ross would visit Wells' room and ask her for advice on makeup and men. Girl. Diana, you the boss, girl. I see you, girl. I see you, Diana. You trying to control them people's emotions. Let me see if I can make her mad. Then make her love me again. And then tomorrow, I'm going to see if I can make her jealous. Yeah. Wells attempted at least one good deed on an early Motown tour, and also managed to get involved in two somewhat farcical incidents. The good deed involved Claudette Robinson, who, although pregnant, had taken Smokey's place in the Miracles on one of the tours. Oh, y'all, pause. I don't even know what the hell the Hong Kong flu is. So anyway, what happened was they're on the Monococali bus tour, right? Smokey Robinson is home with the Hong Kong flu. According to the book, the audience paid no never mind to the fact that this is a woman on stage singing, ooh, baby, baby, do the monkeys, Mickey Monkey, the Smokey Robinson and the Miracles songs, okay? But she's pregnant. Not many people spotted the substitution because few had seen either of the Robinsons in performance. Claudette's soprano also sounded a lot like Smokey's, especially when she was singing Smokey's parts. So fans would encourage Claudette by yelling, "Go Smokey, go Smokey." On the nights that performers stayed in hotel, Claudette and Wells often were roommates. And Wells soon became aware that Claudette was bleeding to an extent that threatened her pregnancy. Knowing that Claudette had had several miscarriages and aware of the couple's desire to have a child, Wells called Smokey from Atlanta and told him what was happening. Smokey immediately called Claudette and tried to convince her to come home, but she refused, saying the fans wouldn't accept the three-person Miracles group. Besides Smokey, Miracle Pete Moore was missing because he was in the Army at the time. There were other pressures on Claudette. Each day, Gordy's sister, Motown executive Esther Edwards, kept asking Claudette, "Can you make it one more day?" Claudette said. When she did return to Detroit around Christmas time, Claudette was down to 89 pounds despite being 3 months pregnant. The expected couple was devastated when in Claudette's 5th month, she miscarried. Nevertheless, Smokey remained forever grateful to Wells for her timely warning, as did Claudette. On another occasion during this tour, a disturbed woman attacked Motown vocalist Kim Weston, thinking that Weston was Wells. The woman, whose motive for attacking Wells was unclear, managed to pull Weston's wig off before being subdued. The most serious was a concert in Birmingham, Alabama. Someone was throwing rocks at the bus and another cried out that they weren't rocks, they were bullets. At just this moment, Wells told Bergsman she was carrying several bags onto the bus when the person in front of her tripped, causing Mary to fall on top of her. As all the performers tried to get on the bus at once, pressing against the downed Wells, she tried to struggle free of her bags and the other downed woman. Wells said she took a while to disengage herself and rise, causing emotions to rise high at the bus entranceway. Later, the rumor floated around that Wells had refused to get up. I remember this, which she denied. You know how panicked people start pushing you? That's what happened. It was horrible, she said. The driver later found bullet holes in the bus, but no one had been hurt. In another published version of this episode, Martha Reeves fell on the floor of the bus and claimed she'd been shot. I remember that. Damn, where is this from? What book is this from? But I do remember this version. Almost every single person anywhere in the vicinity of the incident has insisted on a different account of what actually transpired during those few moments. The episode was frightening and may have permanently altered Mary's view of the world. Wells called the Motown Review Tour her higher education, but Gordy was already very aware of Southern attitudes towards Black people. He refrained from displaying pictures of Wells, the Marvelettes, or other Black entertainers on their early album covers so Southern record stores would not refuse to stock them. Wells was discouraged by all of this, but whenever she walked out on stage, she'd get more applause than any other performer. And no wonder. She was the only solo Motown star of the time. The names of Wells, the Miracles, and the Marvelettes dominated the tour's ads. Her prominence and the applause it engendered, coupled with her talent, encouraged her to perform whatever the difficulty. As famous as she became, Mary remained a laid-back, regular person all of her life, according to her friend May. A big exception to Mary's generally relaxed nature, however, was her relationships with the groups that backed her. Even when she was performing with first-rate bands, she would berate them backstage if they hadn't been up to what she considered par. I was supposed to listen to the band while she performed and tell her if I'd heard anyone make a mistake. May said if May reported a mistake to her, Mary Wells would bring the band backstage and give them what for. On occasion, while she was at Motown, Mary's perfectionism about backup musicians manifested itself in outright rudeness. While she was with Motown, she had a guitar player, Cornelius Grant. And Grant remembers the time when he and road manager Joe Schaffner were driving Mary in her Cadillac from Virginia to New York City. Mary was very highly sexual, Grant said. Okay. She had us stop in D.C. And what facts do he have to support this? Why would he say that? Very highly sexual. That's disturbing to me for a man that's supposed, like, what does she know? Like, is he driving while she getting, hauled out in the backseat? Like, what is it that she has done to show that to him? Because one thing I can't stand, when men put labels on women about them being fast and they do not deserve it. Grant remembers a later instance when he and road manager Joe Schaffner were driving Mary in her Cadillac from Virginia to New York City. Mary was very highly sexual, Grant said. She had us stop in D.C. at this hotel where there was a guy she was dating. We had to drive and park in the hotel while she went upstairs and had her little sexcapade. Grant said he and Schaffner had to wait in the car for 1.5 to 2 hours before Mary returned. Joe had to do all the driving and he was tired. If she knew she was going to be a while, she should have let us take a break and eat breakfast, but we were just her limo drivers. Mary also had no problem protecting what she considered her turf from her fellow performers. Motown producer Robert Bateman remembers that in Motown's early days, he produced a record featuring vocalist Gladys Horton, and Mary was furious at him because she said, "You made her, Horton, sound like me." Most people who worked with Mary at Motown, however, saw Wells, in Martha Reeves' words, as very warm, compassionate, and caring. On the first Motown Review Tour, Wells spent a lot of time talking to David Ruffin.